Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. It has been a long while, a couple of weeks actually, since the last stream we did, and we've got a big one coming up on Tuesday. But I just want to discuss briefly how I did in Game Week 21. It was a poor week for me, as discussed in the initial team selection video. 45 points with the -4 hit taken into account. And there were some regrets, I think, with the captaincy. I should have stuck with Palmer, who was my original vice-captain, with Bowen being my original captain. But once he was orange flagged, I made a change, and I went for Saka, and Arsenal ended up winning 5-0, but no goal contribution whatsoever by him. But it was really the defence that stood out and got me anything at all this week. All three defenders returning, Saliba, Stupinian and Pedro Porro. As for the midfielders, only Palmer really delivering, and the attack was very underwhelming to say the least. But it looks like Trent will be back now for Game Week 22. I provided updates on him, Haaland and Salah in the latest wildcard video. That video contains a lot of information about Blank Gameweek 26 and Blank Gameweek 29, and also briefly covering Double Gameweek 25, and that factors into the best wildcard team, which I discussed there. But in this stream, I'm going to be going through some different things, such as predicted points, also the algorithm showing what Draft Town recommends. There is a link in the pinned comment, so I'd highly recommend you check that out. And I'll be gifting 5 memberships in this stream today and another 5 in a future stream. So be sure to tune in, and you'll be able to get a membership for free for an entire month. And that is something YouTube have done quite recently, and I'm quite happy to give 10 every single month, and that will be the play here. So like I said, 45 points, not too great, and I'm looking to do much better in the future. In order to get a green arrow though, in Game Week 21, I would have needed 14 more points. So even with the Palmer captaincy, I would have been short. So it was a pretty poor week overall. And also, maybe one frustration was going for Gross instead of Diogo Jota or Richarlison. I was really interested in all three. I went for Gross. So far, not so good, but I'm hoping for much better, of course, in the weeks to come. Gross has great fixtures up until Game Week 28. And actually, let's now go for a few comments quickly before going to the different screens. So, welcome, Leonardo. Thank you very much for tuning in. Shepard also says, I got the same points as the average points of the game week. It was hectic. I captained Alvarez, vice-captain Palmer. Yes, and Alvarez will now be a very popular captaincy option in Game Week 22, especially if Erling Haaland is still a doubt to start that game. And there's actually a big change now with the team selection, and that will be covered in the upcoming team selection video, the final version. And Leonardo C says, I had a terrible game week until my captain Diogo Jota cooked. Fair play. Even if I bought Jota in, I wouldn't have captained him, so that's a really good shout. And that's why sometimes you just got to go with your gut and go against the grain and what most people are doing. I think with Saka, he was a template pick, but he was so out of form, and maybe an element of bad luck with Arsenal scoring 5, but ultimately Saka is not really producing goals or assists. And Jota, whenever he gets minutes, he just seems to do something, whether he's off the bench or he's starting games. And now, with Salah out for potentially a month, I think Jota could be a great FPL option. And with that big news of Jurgen Klopp leaving at the end of the season, that could galvanise the team even further to end up lifting the Premier League trophy one more time. And Jota could be a sensational option, even better than he currently is. So I'm very intrigued by Jota. He could be my transfer in Game Week 22. I'm a bit disappointed I didn't do it, of course, in the last week, but fair play to you there, Leonardo. That was a great shout, and that's the sort of pick that is a game-changing decision. So yeah, I'm really happy for you there. Be sure to smash the like button, by the way. Let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes. That'd be massively appreciated, and of course we'll be gifting memberships very soon. But first off, let's go for a few different screens and talk about predicted points for Game Week 22 and the FDR. So we'll start with that. Man City are now top of the fixture difficulty rating. They've got that double in Game Week 25, no blank in Game Week 26, and some pretty good fixtures regardless. Newcastle, Fulham, Aston Villa and Brighton are in the top 5 up until Game Week 28. In terms of those at the bottom, we've got Chelsea, Liverpool, Luton Town, Burnley and Bournemouth, and that's mainly because of the blanks in 26 for Luton Town, Liverpool and Chelsea. And of course, depending on the FA Cup results, there is a small chance they could still play in Game Week 26, but it's very unlikely that that will be the case. Let's now go to predicted points. Erling Haaland remains top according to Fantasy Football Hub, but a lot of other algorithms like FPL.team don't predict Haaland to start, so the expected points is much lower. Jarrod Bowen, Saka, Foden and Maddison are in the top 5. Then we've got Eze, Darwin Núñez, De Bruyne, Richarlison and Ivan Toney in the top 10. So a pretty diversified, yeah, a diverse top 10. Multiple teams being covered there, but there are some out of form assets like Bowen and Saka, but I would back them to do quite well over the next couple of weeks. And in terms of price changes, not so much is happening right now, but tonight we could see Salah and Pau Torres go down in price, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. And in terms of some polls I put out on my channel, be sure to check out the community tab of Dylan RCM. I actually put some questions here and some updates. So one was about Pep Guardiola talking about Haaland yesterday. So he is not going to play against Tottenham tonight in the FA Cup, but he is close to a return. And I simply put the question, do you believe Haaland will start in Gameweek 22? And 60% of you have gone for no with 1,500 votes. So be sure to cast your vote. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section as well. And the other main poll I put out of Gameweek 22 so far is which of these 4 players would you bench? I've got that dilemma myself, and that's honest. That obviously depends if I buy Haaland, and at the moment I'm actually not too keen on doing so. But 37% of you have gone for benching Pascal Gross. In second is Palmer, facing Liverpool away. Then you've got Solanke, and Saka is last. But yeah, it just seems weird to put him in these benching dilemmas. But right now, the form simply isn't there. And like I said in the pinned comment, there is a link to Draft Town. Be sure to check it out. I would recommend, trying out for free for first, and then you can just put in £2 and gain access to all the tools for a week. I'd highly recommend it. And as you can see, they've got quite a lot of suggestions for my team. Solanke to Alvarez is the top suggestion, and they're also saying buying Jota for Jarrod Bowen as part of a -4 hit. Then you've got a few other alternative picks. I'm not really a big fan of selling Trent to Ake, but I think Jota in. It just really is a question of which midfielder do I sell. I don't think I'd want to sell Bowen, despite the fact that he has been a bit underwhelming in the last couple of weeks without Kudus or Paqueta. But Kudus will now return in Gameweek 22 after Ghana were eliminated from AFCON in the group stages. And here in the player rankings, probably the best tool that DraftHand have to offer. In terms of chance of scoring, Alvarez is top, Watkins is second. Then you've got Foden, Joao Pedro, and Darwin Núñez. But there are so many different tools and also metrics, so be sure to let me know what you want to see. But there's also the predicted points for the next 3 game weeks, and if we actually have a look at that, Foden is top. Then you've got Alvarez, Jota, Palmer, and Bernardo Silva in the top 5. A big emphasis on the Man City players because of Double Gameweek 25. Then we look at the fixture analysis. In terms of chance of scoring over 2 goals, you've got Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal in the top 3. And Liverpool are second despite blanking in Gameweek 26. You've got Newcastle and Tottenham also in the top 5. And Chelsea complete the top 6. So you've got 3 blank Gameweek 26 teams who are still right up there because of the quality of fixtures beforehand. And in terms of the player comparisons, you've got Foden versus Jota. That's a very popular one, but you can pick 2 players, whoever you want to pick basically, and you can compare the predicted points and also chance of scoring. All of the metrics will be covered here, so be sure to check out DraftTown. You've also got predicted lineups which are updated daily, and they're quite reliable. Not everything will be spot on, but the vast majority of it will be quite insightful, so I'd highly recommend you check it out. Like I said, you've also got the optimization tool, so if you click this green icon on the right hand side, it will automatically order your bench and also determine the best starting 11 and the captaincy. So they've gone for Trent over Solanke, and also going for Foden captain and Palmer as the vice, which I'm a bit surprised by, but he has been in great form, and all the algorithms really love Cole Palmer, especially DraftHand, so that's definitely something worth bearing in mind. And now let's go to the captaincy, just reliving the failure, at least from my part, going for Saka. 41% of people in the top 100k captain Saka. Palmer was second with 28% of the vote. Then you've got Watkins, Foden and Alvarez in the top 5. And of course, look at Jota there, 6th place with 2.15%. So like I said with Leonardo and those that captain and fair play, that was a massive haul. And I don't think that's going to be the last one. I can see another double-digit return coming very soon, especially if Liverpool blank. No, sorry, they do blank. If they double in Gameweek 25. So that Luton Town blank in Gameweek 26, that fixture could be moved forward to Gameweek 25. All of that is covered in my recent video, so be sure to check them out. The best wildcard team and the initial team selection. And there have been some big changes in my transfer plans with the update we got about Erling Haaland yesterday from Pep Guardiola. And of course, we've got 2 massive games in the FA Cup tonight. Man City versus Tottenham, probably the most interesting. But in terms of FPL, the most important is Chelsea versus Aston Villa, as I've also covered in recent videos. But let's go back to my team, my amazing team, which did so well in Game Week 21. Not so great, of course, but there you go. Let's go through some questions here. So Peter Muller says, nice haircut, thank you. Looking clean. Felt like your picks last week were a bit of a stinker. Yeah, I think going for Gross over Jota Richarlison could be classed as a stinker, and I think the Saka captaincy. But overall, I'm quite happy with my squad, and I still think Gross is a good long-term option, but I can see why you think that. Deadly for you too says, hi Dylan, I hope you're well. Your thoughts on Klopp leaving end of the season? I'm a Liverpool fan and was in shock. I think everyone really was in shock, even those non-Liverpool fans. I think it could have... When I look at next season and maybe the near future, I think Liverpool could struggle. But in terms of this season, I think it will galvanise Liverpool rather than damping their spirits. I think some people, especially Liverpool fans, will be a bit cautious and a bit maybe pessimistic about this season now. But I'm actually the opposite, and I think they will win something this season, at least the Carabao Cup, and they've got a great chance of the league this time round. So yeah, it's obviously a massive blow. One of the best managers in Premier League history, despite only winning it once, potentially twice after this season. But just the impact he had on Liverpool, winning every single trophy available. Of course, he's done a great job, and it's a shame we won't see him in the Champions League again. And he also said that he might not manage in the future, but that might just be him speaking right now, and he might change his mind after a year or two out of the game. London 4W says, evening, likewise to you. Hi Dylan, will Pau play? Kind of some weird comments about Pau Torres from Unai Emery, so I'll try to get the latest that he said. Using Premier Injuries, a really good site to keep track of all the injury problems and updates. So in regards to Pau Torres, he is available, but yeah, it's just kind of a weird situation there. And we also have potential alternatives. He didn't play against Everton, which was a bit of a surprise, but you would back him to be available and in the squad for Game Week 22. It's a bit of an awkward one because everyone was buying him in ahead of Sheffield United a few weeks ago, and it just hasn't really materialised so far. And Aston Villa aren't the greatest defensively regardless. So yeah, no updates really on Pau Torres. I think he's available. If I am wrong about that, be sure to let me know and correct me. Sell Saka for Foden? I think right now I'm open to it. If that's your only route to get Foden, I would do it. I think over the next couple of weeks, Foden will outscore him. Better fixtures, a doubling Game Week 25. There's a lot to like there with Foden, who's been so consistent with the minutes and even the returns recently. So yeah, my answer would be yes. Maybe after this fixture, which seems a bit odd because Foden does play Burnley at home. But yeah, overall, if I had to pick one between Saka or Foden, it is Foden right now. So it is worth the move. Polo Goose says, still holding Son since Game Week 1. I have a lot of money tied up in him. Do I move him on this game week, even if he could be back in like 2 weeks? Yeah, it's an awkward one. It would have been the same for Salah if he didn't pick up that injury. I still think it's worth selling Son because he also blanks in Game Week 26. So despite the fixtures being great in the short term, South Korea is still projected to go quite far into the Asian Cup. So I think it is worth selling him, and you're missing out on some great midfielders. I mean, I've got 5 midfielders I'm quite happy with for the most part, but I'm still finding or trying to find a way to bring in Richarlison or Diogo Jota, and it's difficult for me to do so. So if you're kind of limiting yourself to 3 or 4 midfielder slots, it's going to be even more difficult, and you might miss out on some massive returns from some of the best midfielders in the game right now. So I think it is worth it. So if you can do something like Son to Jota, even with Blank Gameweek 26 in mind, I still think it's worth it. Not to mention Phil Foden, who's probably the best midfielder to buy right now, even over Kevin De Bruyne. Would you captain Alvarez or Jota? I'd still go for Alvarez based on the fixture, but Jota's form is so difficult to ignore. I know Chelsea have been quite good recently. They won 6-1 in the Carabao Cup semi-final. They've won 3 Premier League games in a row. But yeah, I think Chelsea are in better form right now. A lot of recent fixtures between Liverpool and Chelsea have ended up in draws. I'd probably go for Alvarez, and that's mainly because Burnley at home is a fantastic plum fixture, and if he's playing down the middle, he's going to get a lot of chances, and if his shooting boots are on, he could be on for a massive return in Game Week 22. Patrick says, hi Dylan, bench 2 of Trent, Gabriel, Gordon, Palmer and Solanke. Difficult one, I'm not going to lie to you, but might sound surprising. I'd probably bench Gabriel and Gordon. Yeah, I'd start the rest of them. Palmer has the most difficult fixture, but he's on penalties, he's in great form. It's difficult to bench that sort of player. Solanke against West Ham, I could back him to score a goal, especially if Alvarez is out for West Ham. Trent at home to Chelsea, I could see a clean sheet or maybe a bonus point and an assist. So yeah, I think from those players, Gabriel and Gordon are the ones I'd bench. John Peter says, hi Dylan, will you still hold on to Saka and Gross? I just bought in Gross, and despite the frustrations in Game Week 21, he's a bonus points machine. He was on for bonus points at half-time. It's all about how it ends, of course, but I still like Gross in the long term. Maybe going for him over Richarlison and Jota was a mistake, especially in the short term, but I think Saka is more on the chopping block compared to Gross because of his value or lack of value at the moment and the really poor form that Saka's showing. I'm also not a big fan of the fixtures for Arsenal in the next couple. They're decent, but they're not particularly great, especially Liverpool coming up. So yeah, Saka is more likely to be sold, and if I were to bring in Jota, it'd be Saka out for the Portuguese international. Is De Bruyne a must-own if chasing? Not necessarily, because you can chase with a Richarlison or Diogo Jota. What I like about De Bruyne is he has a double in 25, great fixtures before and afterwards, but yeah, it's just a difficult one with him because if I'm being honest, I'd rather go for Foden to cover the Man City attack. I think he's by far the best option right now until Haaland returns. I like De Bruyne, and he was a buy in my recent transfer tips video, but the minutes are still a big concern. And I also think it depends on game state. If Man City are chasing a game, De Bruyne will come on as a substitute, and of course he can make a big impact. But if Man City, for example, are 2 or 3-0 up against Burnley and De Bruyne isn't starting, you wouldn't really expect him to get a handful of minutes. It could even be just 5 minutes off the bench or being left out entirely. So yes, De Bruyne is a good differential, and I think if you are chasing, he's a great way of doing so, but he's not a must-own in either scenario, whether you're trying to protect the lead in a really good rank or if you're trying to clear up the positions and try to get a really good rank at the end of the season. Delhi for you too says, hey Dylan, Areola, Saliba, Doughty, Estupinian, Bowen, Foden, Saka, Palmer, Alvarez, Watkins, Solanke, Dubravka, Gordon, Mikalenko, Trent. Rate my team and advice for moves for Alvarez, Saka and Bowen, 2 free transfers for a -4. Difficult with Alvarez. I talked about him in the recent transfer tips and I said he's a hold for now. But once we know Haaland and De Bruyne are available and ready to start games, you know, a consecutive run of games, that's where I would fear for Alvarez and he would become a sell. So I think Game Week 23 is probably when you're looking to do Alvarez to Haaland. I think that's probably the best time to do it. But then again, I could be wrong about that. With Saka, just trying to think of the midfielders you don't have. Richarlison and Jota spring to mind, but they blank in Game Week 26. But yeah, Saka to Jota would definitely intrigue me right now. As for your other move, Bowen, I'd still be quite keen to keep him actually with Jared Bowen, especially when Kudus is back in Game Week 22, and with Paqueta, let's wait and see. That might still take a while, but it could be sooner than expected, maybe Game Week 23 or 24. So yeah, Saka and Alvarez to Haaland and Diogo Jota probably looks the best. If you have the funds available for that, let me know if you do or not. I'm guessing you do, but I might be wrong, of course. Rayhan says, forgot to make transfers a couple of weeks ago, so still have Salah, Son, Palmer, Bowen and Saka. Should I get KDB and who? I'd rather go for Foden. Might sound boring, but it's my genuine opinion based on the minutes potential. As for Bowen and Saka, now, yeah, Saka's really off form, but you could still make a case for keeping him, and I'm backing him to improve, but it's just kind of a question of when. With Palmer, despite blanking in Game Week 26, I'd keep him regardless. He's just a season keeper at this point. And Jared Bowen is still a good FPL asset. Not as good as before, especially if Paqueta's still out, but I still rate him, and I think he's right up there as one of the best midfielders. But yeah, I think in your situation, Salah's a sell, out for 3 to 4 weeks at least. Heung-min Son, probably a sell with blank Game Week 26 in mind, and probably missing another game week or two at the very least. So yeah, I'd sell Salah and Son and keep the rest for now. In terms of who you buy, De Bruyne is absolutely fine if you want a differential with, you know, explosive potential. But my preference will be Foden and Diogo Jota. Sell Saka for Foden, yeah, pretty much. Matthew Kroll says, bench 1 of Walker, Gabriel, Trent and Bodro, please. Gabriel. In terms of the predicted algorithms like FPL.team and DraftHound, I think Gabriel's quite high up. But I'm expecting Forest to score. And I look at the other teams, you know, Man City against Burnley, I'm expecting a clean sheet. With Trent and Borre, you always have the bonus points and assist potential. So Gabriel is the one to bench, in my opinion. Supreme Sports says, should I sell Trippier to Stupinian or not? Because Trippier's about to have good fixtures and the buy-in deal is off. Yeah, a lot of news going around with Newcastle. Multiple players linked with a move away, like Callum Wilson to Man United and Chelsea. Trippier, as you mentioned, quite a strange time for them as they need to comply with FFP rules. I probably would still. Now, with Trippier, he's got good long-term fixtures. So after Aston Villa, it's a sea of green. I'm expecting maybe 2 clean sheets out of the next 5 game weeks against Bournemouth and Luton Town at home. But I just think Estupinian, with the fixtures coming up, a sea of green pretty much, just amazing fixtures, even better than Newcastle up until Game Week 28. And he's cheaper. That could be very important in terms of affording Haaland back or buying a De Bruyne or getting Salah back in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you, FPL Diamond. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, lads. Support your quality channel as you continue to get brilliant content on a consistent basis. Thank you, mate. Massively appreciate it as always. And it's always good to see you. Nathan Douglas says, Alvarez, Jota, and Watkins for captain pick. Which one? My current preference will be Alvarez. I'm looking at Man City players for the captaincy. If Haaland is ready to start, he's the best captain by far, but that is looking unlikely. So I'm looking at Foden, Alvarez as probably the two standout options on paper. Jota and Watkins are certainly not bad, and I'll talk about Watkins in particular. He's actually my current vice-captain at the moment. But yeah, Diogo Jota against Chelsea, despite the difficulty of the fixture, I still think that's a great shout. In terms of ranking them, it's probably Alvarez first, Watkins second, Jota third. But form needs to be taken into account, and Jota is definitely in red-hot form right now. Who are you captaining next week? As things stand, it is Foden. Now, with my initial team selection video, I talked about captaining Haaland if I bring him in, but now that doesn't look very likely. Hey Dylan, great live. Thank you very much, Aviadem. Question, striker under 5 million, please. In terms of under 5 million strikers, you're not going to find much, just budget enablers who can do pretty well from time to time off the bench, but mainly they're there to sit second or third on your bench and be a facilitator. Cameron Archer is probably less appealing now with Brereton Diaz coming in, and in recent weeks Archer has been benched on multiple occasions. But I'm looking at that position. Muniz maybe springs to mind, but yeah, really under 5 million strikers. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but I'm not a big fan of them. I think Chris Wood is probably the standout, isn't he? He's still 4.9, if I'm not mistaken. He's by far the best. So yeah, if you're actually planning to start this striker, Chris Wood is the only one I'd consider. Joao Garote says, hi Dylan, are you bringing Haaland this game week? I talked about this in the team selection video, but now things have changed after the update we got from Pep Guardiola yesterday. Let's see what he says after today's match against Tottenham. That's a very good match to watch, of course, and probably the standout and highlight of the weekend. So yeah, right now my plan isn't to get Haaland. I have changed that. I'll probably delay that move to Game Week 23, and I'll cover that in the upcoming team selection video. This weekend, either tomorrow or Sunday, is when I'm planning to release it. And of course, I'll try to record it at a time where I can give you the best information possible. So after tonight's matches, which has an impact on Blank Gameweek 29, in particular Aston Villa versus Chelsea, that fixture is particularly crucial to FPL. Supreme Sports says, should we sell Bowen? He doesn't seem quite as involved in the goals anymore. He's blanked in the last two, and he has been disappointing. He doesn't really look like scoring, so you make a good point there. But Kudus is coming back in Game Week 22. I think that will improve Bowen's chances of scoring. Paqueta is probably the biggest miss for Jarrod Bowen, and a reason why he's not as appealing as he was a couple of weeks ago. But over the course of the season, Bowen has been one of the most consistent assets there has been. So I still like him. I'd recommend keeping him in most cases. In terms of other midfielders who look better right now, there's probably two or three. So you're looking at Palmer, Diogo Jota, Richarlison, and probably Foden. Those four look better. But apart from that, I'd still rank Bowen above most midfielders right now. Not to mention some of the midfielders I just said have blanks in Game Week 26, whilst Bowen doesn't. So despite facing Man United and Arsenal in the next 3 fixtures, I still think Bowen can do well in both games, and he did return in the reverse fixtures only a month ago. So for me, Bowen is a keep. If he continues blanking, of course, it could change, just like with Saka, who was kind of untouchable at one stage, but now I'd be very open to selling him. It could be the same with Bowen very soon, but yeah, I'm not changing my mind. I would still recommend keeping Bowen. Start Garnacho or Palmer? Despite the fixtures, I'd go for Palmer. Aviad M says, Dylan, I have a dilemma. Trippier plus Van Heck or Saliba plus Estupinian Zinchenko. Tricky one. I'd still go for Saliba and Estupinian. That would be my preference. Is Haaland available? He's not going to be in the squad tonight. Let's wait and see. Maybe in a little while I can update you on that and see if he's on the bench or not, but I very much doubt it. In terms of Game Week 22, I think he will be in the squad, but I don't think he starts based on what Pep Guardiola said yesterday. So what he said is that Erling Haaland will not feature against Tottenham, but he is close to returning. So let's wait and see, but I don't think he's going to start in Game Week 22. Tripled on City. If I want Kevin De Bruyne, should I sell Foden or Alvarez? I'd rather sell Alvarez. It's a tricky one because Long term, Alvarez is the sell, but this week, ironically, he could be the best captaincy option on paper. Playing down the middle against Burnley, yeah, I just wouldn't sell Alvarez this week. I know the temptation to get De Bruyne is massive, but will he even start that game? I'm not even so sure. So I think I'd keep the 3 City players you have. I'm assuming your other one is a goalkeeper or Kyle Walker, for example. But yeah, I'd probably just keep Foden and Alvarez. If you had to sell one, it would be the Argentine. Supreme Sports says, if I have Ariel and Turner, should I keep them or try to get another goalkeeper? Ariel is absolutely fine. Turner's starting games at the moment. Dubravka is my preference if you were to make a move there. But even then, Newcastle have the worst XGC of the last 6 game weeks. In terms of other goalkeepers, Ryan, Alisson are probably the best in isolation. But yeah, apart from those two, I think Dubravka's the only other goalkeeper I think it's worth selling Turner to. And Areola is someone you can start in most game weeks and do pretty well. Not Noah Roblox says, should I keep Rashford or transfer him out for Martinelli since Martinelli can deliver, unlike Saka? Well, still, over the course of the season, Saka has been far more consistent than Martinelli. In recent weeks, Martinelli looks very lively, of course, getting the assist against Fulham and also a massive return off the bench against Palace. But yeah, for me, Saka's still a better option than Martinelli. I know that might seem, well, it's not based on form. It's more based on the quality of players and the consistency they show over a year. But with Rashford, he is also in great form at the moment, returning in 3 Premier League matches in a row. If I were to sell Rashford, yeah, Martinelli's a decent shout, but I'd still rather go for Jota, Richarlison, even Bowen, Foden. There are plenty of midfielders I'd rather go to first, and then I'd be looking at Martinelli. But yeah, I think with Rashford right now, you probably keep him. But yeah, I can see why you want to sell him still. You probably think his form is going to dip, and he's been very inconsistent this season. But so has Martinelli, let's not forget. Any Man United assets, Rashford's the most in form right now, but my favourite is Garnacho, simply for the price and the value he can offer. In the defence, I'm mainly looking at Dalot. I think he's probably the best of a bad bunch. He's got the bonus points potential. And then, yeah, you're looking at Rashford. Bruno Fernandes, very underwhelming this season. Good underlying numbers over the course of the season, particularly with expected assists. But he's no longer the same FPL asset as he was when he first joined Man United. A doggy, keep or sell? I think he's a sell. It's a bit strange because with Pedro Porro, I keep mentioning him in all my videos. I think he's a great option because of the set piece threat he has and also from open play. He's just a constant threat there for Tottenham. With a doggy, he can get the odd attack in return, but the Tottenham defence is pretty poor in my opinion. I think they are in the bottom 3 for XGC. So yeah, look, for me, with a doggy, I'd rather sell him. You don't necessarily need to this week though, but I think in the long term, especially before Blank Gameweek 26, he's a sell. Kanate, Solanke, Jota, start 1. Jota. With Kanate, yeah, a clean sheet against Chelsea is possible, and Solanke, you wouldn't want to bench him despite him blanking in 2 consecutive games, but I'd rather go for Jota. You think Solanke scores against West Ham? I'd say so. I actually think he'll get a return, and I'd say he's going to score. Deli42 says, hi Dylan, thanks for your advice. I do have enough funds to do both Jota, Haaland, so I've decided to do Saka to Jota for Gameweek 22, and then Gameweek 23, I will do Alvarez to Haaland. I think that's probably the best course of action for you. Now, it might actually backfire this week because I would argue Saka has a slightly higher ceiling this week compared to Jota, but you have to also look at form and the team in general. Liverpool are on a great run and only 1 loss in the last 30 games or so in the Premier League. They're the best team in the league right now, and I think Saka to Jota ultimately will pay off. The only downside you could say to that is that Saka doesn't blank in Gameweek 26 and has good fixtures up until Gameweek 29, whilst Liverpool are very likely to blank in Gameweek 29 as well. But let's wait and see how it pans out. I think overall that is the best course of action, especially Alvarez to Haaland and doing it in Gameweek 23 instead. Thank you very much for the kind words, mate. Start Palmer or Jota? Jota. Mo Shazwan, hopefully I haven't butchered that. I apologize if I did. Raul Jimenez, Solanke, Tony or Alvarez, start which one? Start which one this week? It would be Alvarez. There's no doubt about it. He's the best option this week in the forward line, unless Erling Haaland is ready to start and then Alvarez's starting chances are in jeopardy. The way I'd rank it is Alvarez first, Solanke second, probably Tony third, and Jimenez fourth. Bowen hardly trained before Sheffield. I expect his fitness to improve. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point you raised there. I also still think, though, missing Kudus and Paqueta are massive blows, particularly Paqueta. He has a great relationship with Bowen on the pitch. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of factors, the fitness and also lacking some quality players around him. Aviad M says, question, Start with 5 midfielders, Odegaard, Palmer, Foden, KDB, Maddison, or 4 midfielders plus Isak. Ask for this game week only. That is a great question. Isak away to Aston Villa, he could do something, but Callum Wilson could be back now, and there is a chance he gets a start or at least takes minutes away from Isak. Difficult one, but I'm looking at your midfielders, and I'd probably start all of them. I'd probably start all of them and bench Isak, but if I were to bench a midfielder, it would be Odegaard. Thank you, Rui Vicente. Jota or Richarlison in for Salah? Difficult one. Richarlison is a bit more nailed on for minutes. He's also potentially on penalties. But I'd probably go for Jota. Very tricky one. I was close to buying both of them, and of course I got neither. But yeah, ideally I have both. If I had to pick one right now, it's probably Diogo Jota, especially if Liverpool get a double in Game Week 25, which is still possible. That Luton Town fixture from Game Week 26 could be rescheduled into Game Week 25. And if that's the case, I would have no doubts in my mind that Jota is the better asset to buy. Nunez or Trent? Trent still. I have no doubts about that. Darwin's in great form. Those that held on to him, fair play. But I do think Trent is a better FPL option. Welcome, Luis Bonilla. Hi, sir. Question, start Gross or Gordon? I'd go for Gross. Gordon has been very consistent this season, but mainly at St James's Park. Away to Aston Villa. Quite a tough game there for Newcastle. Despite them battering Aston Villa in Game Week 1, I would go for Pascal Gross. Also, what do you think of going from Luis Diaz to Martinelli? Yeah, Diaz scored the other day in the Carabao Cup, but in general, a pretty underwhelming season for him in terms of goals and assists. To be fair, though, Martinelli also the same thing. I think what saved him a bit is his Champions League performances. In recent Premier League games, though, Martinelli's looked very sharp. And one thing I will say about Martinelli is that last season, when he was benched against Aston Villa, he just really responded very well, came off the bench, scored in that game, and went on a great run. Even when Arsenal were faltering in the title run-in, Martinelli was producing week in, week out, and we could see something similar here. So yeah, Diaz to Martinelli, I think, is an upgrade, but I'm still looking at other options like Jota, Richarlison, Bowen, Foden, and I'd rank them above Martinelli. Having said that, though, it is an upgrade, and I do like the move. Jota in or Walker? Probably Jota. Now, with Walker, he has the double in 25. I would buy him in if possible. I think he's a great purchase. And also, Burnley at home is a good fixture. You could argue with Jota, it's probably best to wait and see first because we could get some updates about Salah. He might be back sooner than expected, and there could be other factors coming into play. But I just think the upside with Jota is massive, and I'd rather go for him. It also depends who you're looking to sell, of course. But just based on who do I prefer buying in, Jota's more exciting. No pun intended. Is this the hardest FPL season of all time? It's all relative, I think. For me personally, it probably is. But then again, I've made some poor decisions. There's also been a bit of variance that's gone against me, but it happens pretty much every single season. I do think it's the hardest. I think if you finish, for example, top 100k, it's kind of the equivalent of finishing top 10k maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Rehan says, Gay to Estupinian for a -4 or play Trent/Burn. The thing is, though, with Gay to Estupinian, great move in the long term. The hit pays off. But Gay plays Sheffield United at home, and I don't think it's worth selling him for a -4 this week. And you could also just play Trent or Burn. And I think Trent is definitely the answer there. So I'd keep Gay, play Trent, have Gay as maybe first on your bench, and that's absolutely fine. And you can do Gay to Estupinian for free in Game Week 23 there, Rehan. Let me know what you think. Chris Asso says, 2 free transfers, team look good. I can't even speak English. Team looks good. I have Walker, Foden, Alvarez, play Garnacho or transfer Salah to Jota, or move Walker to free up third City spot for KDB. I still like Walker though for Double Gameweek 25, and I've mentioned this in my recent videos. My preference is to go for a defender like Walker, who's probably the best defensive option, and then go for 2 attackers. The preferences there would be Foden and Erling Haaland. So I'd keep Walker for now, and I'd just buy Jota, start him, and have Garnacho on the bench. Start Saliba or Dalot? I would go for Saliba. I think Wolves, well, to be fair, I think Wolves and Nottingham Forest will score. But if I had to pick one team to keep a clean sheet, it would be Arsenal in Game Week 22. Which mid to get for Salah, other than Palmer, Saka and Foden? Despite blanking in Game Week 26, I'd be looking at Jota and Richarlison. If you want someone who doesn't blank in Game Week 26, I would consider Pascal Gross or Jarrod Bowen. I think they're both good options. I've got both of them in my team and I'm still quite happy with it. Captain Alvarez or Bowen? Alvarez. Ala Madrid says, wildcard team, Walker, Doughty, Saliba, Estupinian, Botman, midfielders, Saka, Gordon, Palmer, KDB, Jota, strikers, Tony, Werner, and Erling Haaland. Pretty good stuff there, actually. I like the team. Just bear in mind, of course, I'm just going to try and nitpick to give you the best possible feedback. So Doughty will blank in Gameweek 26. He's a good option. His creativity has been very impressive, to say the least. But he is blanking, so bear that in mind. Also, Diogo Jota, he's blanking. And apart from that, you're pretty good to go, actually. So, yeah, that's absolutely fine to have those options. I'm quite keen on it. I'm just wondering who your goalkeepers are. Despite Werner, I think he played pretty well against United, I'd say. Got into great positions, got the assist, but I don't trust him to score goals. I'd rather go in a different direction. Solanke, for example, Ollie Watkins, and of course, you might not have the funds to go for them. That's absolutely fair enough. But also, João Pedro is a better option than Werner, in my opinion. But yeah, really good wildcard squad. Maybe potential changes I consider apart from Werner would be Saka at this moment in time. KDB is a nice shout. I do prefer Foden personally, but KDB has really high ceiling. We all know this. Sven Botman is a good shout, actually, with Newcastle's fixtures coming up. If you do have Dubravka, though, I would consider going for another defender entirely because despite the fixtures being there, I'm not entirely sure about doubling up on the Newcastle defence. If you don't have Dubravka, then you can ignore my comment. Luis Bonilla says, Captain Saka or Solanke? I'm not sure about captaining either this week. And Arsenal have struggled at the Forest Ground in recent seasons. I think they've lost the last 3 or 4 meetings there. They lost in the Premier League last season and also in 2 recent FA Cup meetings. If I had to pick one for the captaincy, it's probably still Saka, but yeah, both of them out of form, particularly Saka. I'd rather captain someone else, to be honest. Saka to De Bruyne for a -4. No. As much as De Bruyne has a high ceiling, if he starts against Burnley, yeah, of course it could be worth it, but is he going to start? That is a big if in my opinion, and I'd just rather keep Saka at the moment, wait for more information, and if you want to go for a Man City midfielder, my favourite is Phil Foden. Captain for this week, I'd say Foden or Alvarez are the top 2. In terms of who's first, I'd still probably put Foden maybe in number 1, but I think Alvarez playing down the middle is just so enticing this week, and I'm even considering making that move myself for just 1 week, buying Alvarez and then selling Alvarez to Haaland in Gameweek 23. Matthew says, thank you for answering about my defenders, no problem. In the midfield, please bench one of Palmer, Gross, or Douglas Luiz. Interesting indeed. I'd probably bench Douglas Luiz, but just like Palmer, he's got the penalties in his locker, and that could easily change a 2 or 3 pointer into a massive return, because whenever Douglas Luiz gets a goal or an assist, he is very likely to get bonus points. That's what I like about him. So, difficult decision, but based on the fixtures and also maybe the positions they take up the pitch, I would bench Douglas Luiz. Pranav says, out of topic, I won't mind if you skip, but thoughts on Klopp news? I covered him earlier. It's a massive shock, of course, and I think Liverpool will struggle, not this season. I think that will actually galvanise them. They'll win the Carabao Cup, in my opinion. They've got a great chance of the league this season. It's between them and Man City mainly, Arsenal outsiders at the moment. And then I'm looking at the FA Cup. Maybe they can win that too, to be fair. Europa League, you never know. 2, 3, 4 trophies is on. I'd probably say Liverpool will end up winning 2 trophies this season. And as for the future, I think Liverpool will struggle a little bit, even if they get Xabi Alonso or a really good manager to replace Klopp. It's going to take some time. And I think the big concern as well is that you also see other senior figures in the Liverpool, hierarchy. You've got the assistant managers, for example. You've got, I think, someone related to transfers. They're all leaving right now or at the end of the season. And then you've got multiple key players like Alisson, Salah, who are out of contract very soon, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now in terms of Liverpool's future, but I think they'll do well this season, regardless of the news. Do you think Areola comes away with a clean sheet? No. To be honest, I don't think so. I've got Solanke starting at the moment anyway, so if that were to happen and if Areola doesn't keep a clean sheet, then I would like Solanke to get the goal, of course, but let's just wait and see. My answer would be no. Buy De Bruyne or Jota? Probably Jota still, despite blanking in Gameweek 26. Still a potential double in Gameweek 25. He's much cheaper than De Bruyne. Very high ceiling. He's so clinical. Even off the bench, you can do something. And with De Bruyne, I just think the minutes and the injury record are 2 major concerns for me. I still like De Bruyne. He'd be easily in the top 10 midfielders to buy, but I still have my doubts about him and whether he can be a great long-term option. Start Ferguson. Yeah, I'm not completely against that. The problem with Ferguson, though, is will he start the game? And that is a massive if. And I do think it's worth selling Ferguson if possible. You can go to Ivan Toney, Solanke, Watkins, Haaland, Alvarez for this week. Of course, with Haaland, maybe delay that move for another week or so. Thoughts on Eze? He looked really good against Arsenal, despite Crystal Palace losing the way they did. I think Eze looked pretty good, and he's such a quality player, in my opinion. And once Elise is back, that would be a massive boost for Crystal Palace. The fixture is certainly there for him, but I think the main concern with an Eze is the team he plays for, which is so inconsistent. And Eze can have a great game and come out with 2 or 3 points and no attacking returns whatsoever. So, yeah, with Eze, I like him as a player. I think as an FPL asset, he can be very good. But at this moment in time, there are much better alternatives like Jota, Richarlison, Foden, Bowen. I'd still put Saka in that conversation. And there are plenty more where that came from. Dimitris K says, I have Watkins, Tony, and Solanke. Should I bring in Haaland for Tony this week on a free? No. And also with Tony, it's kind of an awkward time to sell him because he's got double Gameweek 25 and also he's got that fixture in Gameweek 29. So I think if you have Tony, you keep him, but there's no doubt that the best fixture just went by against Nottingham Forest. If you were to bring in Haaland, I would do it in Gameweek 23 unless, you know, in the deadline stream, for example, on Tuesday, we get news that Haaland will start or that it's very likely that he will. In that scenario, I would bring him in this week, but I'm looking at your team and at the moment, I'd rather sell Solanke to Haaland and doing Gameweek 23 instead. Pankaj says, should I get in De Bruyne or Jota instead of Saka or Bowen? At the moment, it would be Jota in for Saka if I had to make a move. Now, there's nothing wrong with De Bruyne, like I said, in terms of, you know, the quality of player. He's probably the best player in the league, and he's also got such a high ceiling. But I think Jota, in terms of value, and also the way Liverpool are playing, yeah, I just think there's still a massive upside to Jota, and also with De Bruyne, you've got the minutes concern. And with Bowen or Saka, both of them out of form. But I think once Bowen builds up the fitness, as a viewer rightfully said a few minutes ago, and also with Kudus coming back, I'd rather have Bowen than Saka right now. Bada says, hey Dylan, what do you think about Klopp news leaving Liverpool? How would that affect the team performance as a boost maybe? I covered it just now, you probably saw what I said. I think it will be a massive boost for this season. Now it does in turn also add pressure on Liverpool, but I actually think it'll be a good pressure, and it's kind of like a long farewell for him. It's kind of a weird time to do it in the middle of the season when Liverpool are flying right now. You would have thought it would have been last season when they were having a pretty poor campaign, but maybe that played a part into his final decision. And yeah, you just never know, you know, what goes through people's minds. But he's been managing for so many years now in a row. He's pretty much been, I think he's been managing 20 years consecutively, which is absolutely mad. Not really much of a break. He deserves one of the best managers in the world for sure. I think only Pep Guardiola, you could say, is probably better than him at the moment. Start Van de Ven or Solanke? Solanke. If it was Pedro Porro, it would be a different answer, I think, but Van de Ven or Solanke, I'd go for the striker. Whom to start says DC21, Palmer, Solanke, Watkins or Darwin. How many do I have to pick from that? If I had to just bench one there, difficult, but I think I would bench Solanke, dare I say. Now, in my initial team selection video, I had Palmer on the bench, but it's just so difficult to do that right now, despite facing Liverpool away. Yeah, it's between Palmer and Solanke to bench at the moment, and I'd probably bench Solanke. Start one, Areola or Martinez. Areola. Captain Foden or Alvarez. My current preference is Foden, but I'm not going to lie to you. Alvarez down the middle against Burnley. I think that's a great option, to be fair. Would you sell Saka? Not this week, but I am looking to sell him very soon. If he doesn't improve, then he will be on the chopping block. There's no doubt about it, especially with the likes of Jota and Richarlison looking very enticing. And if I were to make a move, I think Jota's more likely for me. Kanate or Solanke for this game week? Solanke. Sonny Stewart says Haaland or De Bruyne? Haaland once he returns. Now, with Haaland, he might not start in Game Week 22, and to be fair, De Bruyne might not either, but I would argue that De Bruyne is probably a bit more likely this week. Zinchenko or Moreno, who to start? Zinchenko. Will Kuda start this week? I believe so. He's already back from AFCON, and there's still a little while until the Game Week 22 fixtures, so yeah, I think he will start. Gato says, would you get Walker or Estupinian this week? Good question. If I'm buying one this week, it's probably Walker because he's facing Burnley at home. I think Man City will keep a clean sheet there. With Brighton, I'm not so sure. I think Luton Town could get a goal. Long term, of course, Estupinian, better option than Walker. But I think when you also take into account double Game Week 25, I would give the edge there to Kyle Walker this week. Happy Human says, I have Haaland and Alvarez. Should I start both of them? Yes, I mean, I'd still start both of them. But with Haaland, it's an awkward one because he might be on the bench and then come on for a one-pointer. Then again, if he gets 20, 30 minutes off the bench, he could get a goal or two. You never know. A lot is up in the air right now with Erling Haaland. He's been injured for such a long time, and he might not be rushed back in. So I think right now, I would captain Alvarez. If we got news that Haaland was starting, or that he's very likely to, then of course, he's the best captaincy option. But I don't think that will be the case. Do you think Liverpool keep a clean sheet? Good question. I think they can see 1 goal maximum. And if you're asking me right now, yeah, I think they will. That's my current thinking. And that's why I originally thought about benching Palmer. But I still can't bring myself to do it. Yo, Dylan, do you believe there are aliens out there? Says 24K Will. Oh, great question. I've been playing Mass Effect and I've been thinking about that question myself. Yeah, I'd say so. Of course, you could argue there is some proof. I'm not an expert on this or anything, but I mean, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Let me know what you think. Alan Madrid says, I have the Bravka and Areola. Please suggest if I can go for Steele of Brighton. Yes, and by the way, you're wildcarding right now. Check out my best wildcard team video, which I uploaded yesterday, and I do mention Steele. And what I say about him is that he's an honourable mention in terms of alternative goalkeepers. And if he can nail down a spot and just be the undisputed #1 in the Premier League, then with the fixtures up until Gameweek 28, he's a great option. But that is the big if, because throughout the season, the Zerbi's been rotating a lot between the goalkeepers, and that has been very off-putting, to say the least. Adnan ANJ says, 1 free transfer and keen to take a -4. Areola, Dubravka, Estupinian, Borro, Trent, Cash, Gabriel, Gordon, Foden, Richarlison, Bowen, Palmer, Foster, Watkins, and Solanke. Thoughts on Robertson? Says United's finished. We'll cover that very soon. I thought it was the same question. Similar DPs. Yeah, so when I'm looking at the team, I think Cash immediately springs out as a sell. Apart from that, though, the rest of your squad looks pretty good. I think Foster's the other one you can upgrade, but then it also leads towards 8 attackers and also having benching dilemmas in the future. But I think Cash out to a Kyle Walker, for example, is a great move. Having said that, though, your defense looks really good this week, especially if Trent is available. I think Gabriel's absolutely fine. He picked up a knock, but you know, I'd be very surprised if he didn't play against Forest. So, yeah, Cash is the worst player in your squad, and I'd sell him to Kyle Walker. And apart from that, I think Foster to Alvarez could be the move this week. And then next week, you can bring in Haaland for Alvarez, Adnan. So, yeah, I think that's probably what I'd be looking to do. You can make both moves for a -4 hit. But I think what you should probably do, if you have the funds, is Foster to Alvarez, and then do Alvarez to Haaland next week in Gameweek 23 or 24, and you can also bring in Walker in a couple of weeks' time as well. So thoughts on Robertson? I actually did mention him in the best wildcard team video. I do prefer Trent Alexander-Arnold, but Robertson is a good alternative. The same goes for Van Dijk. You can't go wrong with any of those three, or Alisson in goal. But I think Trent is still worth the extra millions. The only downside to that is that will make it difficult to buy back Son and Salah, as well as the likes of Erling Haaland up top. But Robertson, yeah, I'm very intrigued by him. He's a nice differential, but I still think Trent is a better FPL option and justifies the extra 1.5, 1.7 million, whatever it is. I think actually it's a 2 million difference right now. Zerenez says, had both Jota and Gabriel, but captain Odegaard. Well, at least he had both Jota and Gabriel. You have to look at the positives. At this point, I think my heart can never be tested like the way FPL puts me through. I mean, look, Arsenal scored 5 goals, and for Odegaard and Saka, arguably the 2 best Arsenal players, to come out with nothing is a surprise still. But Odegaard, I just think, doesn't show the same goal threat as he did last season. He wouldn't be in my captaincy thoughts at all. I think with Palace, I'm not going to lie to you, I was actually talking about it and thinking he could be a nice differential, but I just think from now on, it's probably best to avoid these sorts of punts. He might get the occasional massive return like he did against Bournemouth early in the season, but yeah, it's just difficult to kind of advocate for Odegaard right now in terms of the captaincy. Start Areola or Leno? Areola. Is Jota just points chasing? That's a good question. Of course, it always comes down to these sorts of debates. I talked about Jota even before. If you check out my Gameweek 21 Transtips video, the first buy mentioned was Diogo Jota, and I kept talking about how much I like him. I didn't go for it myself. The thing about Jota, though, is if he has the double in Gameweek 25 and also facing Chelsea and Arsenal, I could still see him doing well in all of those games. He's got a great record against the Gunners, and I just think with Chelsea being the first home game and also, well, first Premier League game after Klopp's announcement, Liverpool could be absolutely through the roof in terms of motivation. You know, the Anfield could be buzzing, and yeah, it could be a fantastic atmosphere. Of course, that doesn't have a tangible effect on FPL, but I still think all of these things can play a part. And look, for me, Jota just offers great value right now, off the bench or starting games. He's a very efficient player, and I think that's what it comes down to. Start Ederson or Areola? Ederson. Definitely Ederson. I think City will keep a clean sheet. I don't think West Ham will. Should I bring Trent back or roll the transfer? It depends who you sell to get Trent in. That would be obviously the big kind of determining factor. And also, what other transfers could you make in Game Week 22? Mass Effect is ace. Yes, it is. I've been replaying the trilogy. I finished all of them, platinum all of them, and I'm playing them again because they're that good, yeah. If he turns out to be fit, who to sell for Haaland, Solanke, Watkins, or Nunez? Okay, despite Nunez being in great form and a potential double in Game Week 25, it might be an unpopular opinion, but I'd rather sell Nunez out of the free. The thing is with Watkins, though, he has been pretty underwhelming recently, but the kind of key reason why I'd keep him is the fixtures. The fixtures are just absolutely amazing, and I could see him doing really well. With Solanke, a potential double coming up fairly soon. Same with Nunez, but yeah, I'd have to say Darwin. King Kai says, Mass Effect is my favourite game series after Dragon Age. BioWare really had a nice run. Yeah, that was their golden age, wasn't it? I actually haven't played Dragon Age. I've got it downloaded on my PC, and I'll play at some stage, that's for sure. And also revisiting the Knights of the Old Republic. So yeah, good taste, I have to say. Good taste. Alif Ashraf says, hi mate, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Love your content. I appreciate that. And very soon, actually, I'll be gifting a few memberships. I appreciate those that have tuned in today. It's been a nice conversation. We do have some big games coming up within an hour. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Our aim is to get this stream to over 100 likes. Be sure to also check out Draft Town. There is a link in the pinned comment and in the description below. I'd highly appreciate it. And also, it's for your benefit because it has so many different alternatives and resources and tools for you to use and to optimize your FPL decisions. I'm stuck. Keep Konate or Solanke. I have actually answered your question and I said Solanke. I don't think it's a debate really. Yes, Konate could keep a clean sheet against Chelsea, but I just think Solanke's ceiling is higher, even against West Ham away. Now, if you really want to play Konate, then go for it, but I personally recommend or prefer Solanke. Do Everton keep a clean sheet against Fulham? Both teams are very hard to predict, so I'm actually not sure. I haven't actually made my predictions. I'll probably do that for the deadline stream and put my predictions in the Discord server. My gut feeling would be no. Pankaj says, bring in Walker, Gabriel for Senesi or Jota for Saka this week. My preference will be Walker in for Senesi. I think that's the best move based on your team situation. Jota's the more exciting pick, but I also think Saka could be better in Game Week 22. So I think from those options, it would be Walker in for Senesi. Yeah, in terms of who's more likely to give a clean sheet from those two, I would argue it'd be Konate and Liverpool there. Will Watkins score against Newcastle? I think so. And if he doesn't, I think he'll get an assist. With Newcastle's defensive stats recently, yeah, I think Villa will score probably 2 goals at least. So I would back him too. Yo, Dylan, would you choose to come first in FPL if a menu could never grow a beard again? Yes, because to be fair, I mean, some people prefer me without a beard. I know I've seen some people in the live chat, whenever I do shave, they're like, what have you done? Don't do it again. I'm like, whatever, man, it's just a shave. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I think that's still quite easy for me. I'd rather finish first in FPL. Now, if you're asking me, would I rather finish first in FPL or Arsenal win the Premier League or, you know, Argentina win the World Cup, then you will know my answer there. But yeah, I think it's quite simple here. I'm going to go for FPL. Bowen or Jota, says Sonny Stewart. This week, I'd say Bowen. I'm going to stick with Bowen there. Start Areola or Pickford. Difficult one, actually. I would go for Areola, but I'm not so sure. Maybe that's kind of ownership bias there. I think Pickford could be a decent shout. As I just mentioned a few messages ago, I don't think Everton keep a clean sheet, but I also don't think West Ham do either. Difficult one to call. Instead of Werner, I'm thinking of Cunha. But from Brighton, if I need to pick who would be better, Ferguson, Welbeck or Pedro? Joao Pedro. He's got the high ceiling. He's also getting the most minutes recently. And he's on penalties. He's actually never missed a penalty in his senior career. So it would be Joao Pedro. Cunha's not a bad shout. He's very consistent. But I just look at Wolves' fixtures and they're quite meh. They're very, very average. Start Areola or Leno. Kind of the same thing as I just mentioned with Pickford. I'd probably go for Areola. but it's a difficult one to call. Yeah, it's a tough one. Some good questions being posed in the chat, but yeah, if I'm being honest, yeah, Fulham at home, I think they're probably more likely to keep a clean sheet than Pickford and Everton, to be fair. Wow, that's a difficult one. Yeah, you know what? I think I'd go for Leno, but that's kind of just a gut feeling. It has nothing really to it. It really doesn't. And Fulham haven't been in great form recently. Is Isak a good shout? Yes, he is. The only problem with Isak is that Callum Wilson could be back in Game Week 22. Thank you, Vegard. I appreciate that very much. Chelsea versus Villa, who to win? I mean, I'd prefer Aston Villa just because, you know, they're not a rival of, you know, the team I support. And also, you could argue it causes, I mean, either way will cause FPL chaos in Game Week 29. But yeah, in terms of FPL repercussions, I don't have a preference. Who is going to win is difficult. I think actually with form in mind, I think Chelsea. But I'm probably going to look at the lineups first and then we can determine. So yeah, you know what? We might as well, since the lineups are out already for some big matches today, let's bring up Spurs. Spurs Man City? No, we'll leave that for now. We'll put Aston Villa versus Chelsea first. So... Wow, really? Okay, wait, I actually got some big news for you right now. I mean, big news. I mean, does it even matter at this point? What do you lot think about this before we go into the lineups? So, confirmed, Gabriel Magalhaes has been accredited with the second goal in Arsenal's 5-0 win over Crystal Palace on Saturday, following an appeal by the club against the decision of awarding it as a Dean Henderson own goal. Where's the Saka assist? That's my question. Come on. I mean, that's actually ridiculous, man. So we actually fought for that goal. That means Gabriel now has 13 Premier League goals since he joined the club, I think. So really good record, the most of any defender. But I don't think he's going to get the FPL points. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they're going to go back retrospectively and change that, which is a big shame. It would have meant a few extra points for Saka captainers and also for those that had Gabriel. So yeah, a bit late now. I had no idea why they didn't give the goal in the first place. So there you go. That is the news. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat right now. And I'll also bring up the lineups very soon so we can get this news off the screen because it's kind of, yeah, it's not great. It's not great. So let's bring up Chelsea's lineup right now. I think I've got it. Yes, I do. So let's bring up Chelsea's lineup first. So, Petrovic, Disasi, Thiago Silva, Badiashile, Colwill, Caicedo, Gallagher, Enzo, Madueke, Palmer, and Sterling. So a good team there by Chelsea, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, let's see what Aston Villa's team is. I'll be very intrigued. It should be strong. It's the best chance of winning a trophy, of course. So I'm going to bring up Aston Villa's team very soon. Let me know your predictions for the FA Cup games today. Remember, this is the most important one FPL-wise because of their respective opponents in Game Week 29. So, for example, if Chelsea are eliminated, then they will have a fixture in Game Week 29 and that will be confirmed. And the same goes for Aston Villa. So that is what we're really looking out for. With Aston Villa, let's bring that up here. Plenty of time to mull over the Chelsea lineup. So with Aston Villa, we have got Emi Martinez, Cash, Konsa, Lenglet, Alex Moreno, McGinn, Kamara, Douglas Luiz, Tielemans, Diaby, and Watkins. In terms of the bench, yeah, still no Pau Torres, which is obviously someone asked about him earlier. So yeah, I'm not sure what the situation is there actually, but that is a pretty decent lineup there for Aston Villa. Yeah, difficult game to call. I wouldn't be surprised if it went to extra time. I think it goes to extra time, doesn't it? No replays at this stage. I actually have no idea with the FA Cup. I kind of lose track with it, but I think it could be a draw actually. I look at Chelsea, Aston Villa. Yeah, that's a difficult game to call, to say the least. But yeah, I'll leave that for a few more seconds. I just want to see what people are saying about Gabriel. That is way too late. That is way too late, man. Adnan ANJ says, do you think Maddison will start? We're going to find out in a minute, basically. But Ange Postecoglou said that Maddison is ready to start and that it could happen. So let's wait and see what the end result is. My guess would be yes, but let's wait and see. I do tend to get a lot of these predictions wrong. I'm human. Only human after all. So yeah, let's see if I can get the Man City. Yeah, it's going to be in like a minute's time. So we'll wait a little bit and then we'll bring up the Man City and Tottenham lineups as well. So yeah, imagine those with Saka, captain, and Gabriel. They've been robbed by a substantial number of points. So yeah, sometimes FPL does play a part in luck, you know, or luck plays a big part in FPL, should I say. Oh, I think the lineup is already out for Man City. Yep, it just came out a few seconds ago. Let's see, so yeah, I'm going to have 2 screens for these games today. So Man City, there we go. So Ortega Moreno, Walker, Diaz, Ake, Gvardio, Rodri, Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Oscar Bob, and Alvarez. Then you've got Ederson, Stones, Grealish, Doku, De Bruyne, Gomez, Nunes. I'm not going to say that just in case. And Rico Lewis on the bench. I apologize for that. I apologize. But yeah, still no Erling Haaland. As Pep Guardiola said yesterday, De Bruyne's on the bench again. Take, you know, what you will from that. But yeah, his minutes are going to be carefully managed, in my opinion. And that's why, despite his massive return in Gameweek 21 and his high ceiling, yeah, I'm still not quite there yet. I'd rather go for Richarlison still, Jota, and of course from Man City, I've got Foden myself. I'm quite happy with him. And yeah, really good game coming up. And let's see if Tottenham are starting Maddison. But yeah, I'm sure some of you are already saying it in the live chat. No, so I was wrong about that. My gut feeling was wrong. So here is the Spurs lineup. That's the last lineup we're going to show. The rest of the games aren't really maybe too interesting or important, you could argue. So Vicario, Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogi, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson, Richarlison, and Timo Werner. But Maddison is on the bench there, as you can see. So yeah, a good lineup there for Tottenham and for Man City. Difficult games to call. Tottenham have gotten the better of Man City at this stadium. I don't think City have ever scored in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is quite surprising. But there you go. Those are all the lineups covered. And of course, we've got that big news about Gabriel's goal being given, but no FPL points are awarded for Saka's assist or Gabriel's goal. That is just an absolute joke, to be honest. It really is, but it is what it is. I mean, I made the wrong call, captaining Saka anyway, but come on, just give the points. Just give the points. That's what I'd say. Let's go back to my team and go back to your questions. And let's be sure to get this stream to over 100 likes. So what I'm going to do now to just reward the loyal viewers is to gift 5 memberships. That's what I'm going to do right now. It's going to be allocated at random. I have no impact on that. Let me see if I can actually do it. For some reason, it's not giving me the option to right now. I'll try to get to the bottom of this, but I'm pretty sure I can do it. Just give me a second. And then, yeah, I'm going to gift some memberships here for those that have been watching. So I appreciate that. And then, yeah, we'll go back to your questions. So let me just get this up. Yeah, so still not able to do it right now for some reason. I think I checked yesterday and it was working. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to gift 5 memberships now. And it's going to be allocated at random, so I appreciate those. It's kind of a thank you to those that tune in. It will be kind of a 1-month free membership, and then we'll read out the names that have been allocated the memberships. So let's see. So yeah, it's all done there. So Stephen, Strichbok, Fax, Jayhan, and Fruit Plug have all been gifted memberships, and I think there's one more, no? Is there not another one? Oh, yeah, it was a moderator got the membership as well. So Badder as well got the membership. So there you go, 5 memberships all awarded. And in a future stream, I'll also be letting you know, and I'll be gifting another set of 5 memberships. So enjoy it. You'll gain access, early access to my videos and much more. So let's go quickly through the messages that I missed out. Do you also play FPL Draft? And there's actually a message from a new member. Would you ever consider making content about it? I'm open-minded. I wouldn't rule that out, but I don't play FPL Draft. That is the simple answer. In the future, maybe I will start making it if I actually play it. Best Jurgen Klopp replacement, I think most Liverpool fans would say Xabi Alonso, based on the Liverpool connection and the tremendous job he's doing with Bayer Leverkusen. Is benching Palmer against Liverpool a risk worth taking? Well, you seem very bullish on the Liverpool clean sheet, and I think it could be worth it. But the thing with Palmer is he's got high ownership, but more importantly, he's on penalties, and he hasn't blanked in any big game this season. Tottenham away, double-digit return, got a penalty goal against Arsenal and against Man City, also scored from open play against Man United, and yeah, he's just been really good in any big game I can remember. Buy Walker or Estupinian? It all depends on the situation. So, for example, someone else earlier, I did say to buy Walker just because he's got Burnley at home this week, better chance of a clean sheet than Brighton, and also a double in Game Week 25. But I do like Estupinian. I think in general he'll score more points with bonus points and attacking potential. But I think right now I'd buy Walker. Bench Bowen or Palmer? I'd bench Palmer. Juntal says, hi Dylan, will Trent and Gabriel start? I think so. I'd be very optimistic about that. If you had to pick one, who? Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'd start him. Is Lascelles a keep regarding the next games for Newcastle, or better to sell him for Estupinian with Gabriel doubtful to start? I would sell him to Estupinian because Lascelles, yeah, great fixtures, of course, after Game Week 22. But the problem is he's not going to start the vast majority, if not all of those games coming up, because Botman and Fabian Schär are available. Sahil says, Pep said De Bruyne is ready to start. Should I buy him? But it'll be complicated to buy him. Yeah, I mean, look, he came off the bench against Newcastle. He's been training for a couple of weeks now. And you would probably guess he starts against Burnley, but even then, his minutes will be managed still. Yeah, it's absolutely fine to buy him. He's got high ceiling, nice differential, you could argue, although, I mean, it seems like millions are buying him every single week. I just personally prefer Foden. That's just my opinion. And I also would rather go for Jota and Richarlison, who have also got lower ownership. But yeah, it's absolutely fine to buy him, I think. It's just be aware he will be benched from time to time and also not get 90 minutes that often. Mr. V says, nice. And then says, oh my God, they don't adjust FPL points though. Yeah, only within the day, I think. They don't do it retrospectively. Yeah, Adnan, I don't think they will, unfortunately, with Gabriel. So no goal for Gabriel and no assist for Saka. Yeah, it's a shame. I know, it's kind of a ridiculous, really. I'm going to check just in case, but it's a fool's hope, as Gandalf says, because they're not going to change anything. It's just as simple as that. I said it when it happened. It's just, there's no reason. You know, Gabriel's header is on target. You know, it's literally, that's the rule. If the shot is going on target, it's classed as a goal for the player. I thought they would change it in FPL. Yeah, they should. I completely agree with you, but I think they only change it within the day. Correct call, that was a Saka assist on Gabriel's goal. Yes, Luis, but unfortunately, Saka will not get the assist FPL-wise. FPL surely won't count it. Yeah, I don't think so. That would change my game week a lot, says Fruit Plug, if the points would have counted. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I didn't even have Gabriel, but I just think it's a farce. Sahil says, I hope he doesn't get the points. The gap between me and the person top my mini league will increase. Don't worry, Sahil, the points won't count. They're not going to add it. You know, if it did, which, you know, there's like a 1% chance of happening, yeah, it's just minuscule chances. What are your thoughts on Haaland returning against Burnley? Even on the off the bench, he could do something, of course, scoring a goal or two, but I'd rather buy him in if I know he's going to start or has a good chance of starting. That's kind of my take on it. Badia Chile and Cole wingbacks. Yeah, that doesn't look particularly good, to be fair. I think the midfield looks all right for Chelsea, but yeah, that's like they have been playing a lot of centre-backs at fullbacks recently. United is finished, says, my team for this week is Areola, Estupinian, Walker, Trent, midfield, Gross, Rashford, Jota goal, Foden, Richarlison, Alvarez and Tony. I like it, to be fair. I do. I'm just trying to think what you're lacking, so to speak, but I think you're pretty well covered for this week. Yeah, no Arsenal players whatsoever. Not necessarily a bad thing, though. I think Villa win 2-1, yeah. They did win 1-0 earlier in the season. Watkins goal, straight after I sold him. That's why I remember. Yeah, I hope FPL gives that as an Saka assist and Gabriel goal. I'm sorry, Luis, but I just don't see it happening. Bader says that's too much work for FPL if they want to count the goal. I'd love that, though, as I had Gabriel and Saka. Yeah, look, I mean, it should happen. I mean, literally the goal has been awarded, but why is it taking so long? I honestly have no idea. Luis says, I captained Saka that game, very upset when they took that assist away. Hope they give the points back. So do I, but it's just better not to expect anything, especially from FPL. Georgius says, Gabriel caused a lot of problems with his haul. Thankfully, the second goal was not credited. Yeah, look, even for me, you know, any extra points for Gabriel would be bad for me, but I just think it's the right thing to do, to be fair. Of course, if I was like first in the world and that would cause me to go down to second and it ends up costing me in the end of the season, I'd have a different take, but don't worry, I'm far from first. Then he's on your buy if you're not convinced, says Sahil. If there was Son, I would have 100% gone for a Spurs win. Yeah, look, with De Bruyne up, because literally very recently I talked about skipping him and I mentioned that, you know, once De Bruyne is fully fit and can start games consecutively, he turns into a buy. And I think he is a good purchase. Don't get me wrong. I just think there are better alternatives who offer better value and will get more minutes. That's kind of my take on it. He is a buy. I would rather buy him than skip him entirely, of course, but it's all circumstantial, and I still think there are better alternatives. It's the same as the March goal last season. Yeah, I think I had March. If I'm not mistaken, I think I had him. Those points were never awarded either, so don't think the points will be given. Yes, you're absolutely right about that, Fruit Plug. Check says Jay, welcome. And I think, yeah, both of you actually do have memberships now. Adnan says yes. Generous man. Thank you very much, Adnan. And like I said, I will be gifting more in the future. It's a nice feature from YouTube that they've offered very recently. Ian Shaw says, awesome. Yes, I do think it's good. Yeah, they should give us the points, says Mr. V. They should, but they won't. Bada, thank you very much. Thoughts on Silva? Bernardo Silva, not the worst option, to be fair. And actually, one thing I saw is that away from home, he's been very consistent. He's returned in most games. It's at the Etihad where, apart from that big call against Bournemouth, apart from that, he's been quite indifferent. But yeah, he's not a bad shout. I do prefer Foden. I think the way I'd rank the midfielders is Foden first, De Bruyne second, and Bernardo third. Forget last year. We on a new year, things change for the better. I mean, yes, it's a great mentality, but FPL don't have that. Delhi for you too. Good luck, people, for the membership. Dylan, you generous, lovely man. It's obviously just YouTube. They're the ones who have put the feature in. It's a great feature. And yeah, there's going to be another 5 memberships gifted in a future stream too. Saka's blank was quite convenient for Darwin captainers. How so? I mean, maybe I'm being a bit dim there, but it's not the first time. I got one. Appreciate it, Dylan. No worries, mate. And enjoy it. And yeah, just for example, the upcoming team selection video over the weekend, you know, you're going to gain access to that at least a few hours early, potentially even up to a day or more early. Sometimes I do that, especially during the summer where there's a lot of content. And of course, maybe things aren't out of date so quick. And yeah, that's a really good perk that you get from the memberships. The mod got it. Well, only one mod though. There's no... Just to make it very clear, I didn't pick the people who get the memberships. It's literally randomly allocated. I click a button and then YouTube just gives it at random. I don't know what is taken into account. No worries, Fruit Plug and Jayhan and Steve. Enjoy the memberships. Of course, this is probably said like 20 minutes ago, but yeah, I'm a bit slow. Packed any team of the years? I did buy FIFA for Christmas. I don't know why. Ever since I bought it, Arsenal have been crap, so maybe I shouldn't have bought it. No, I've got some decent packs, like, you know, well, actually not really. Decent packs for a beginner, like Bruno Fernandes and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I don't think my pack luck has been that great this year. Sell or Doggy, Gusto or Pinnock, says Gato. Difficult one, but I'd rather sell a Doggy. With Gusto, he's cheaper, and despite blanking Game Week 26, so does the Doggy. And I also think Chelsea are better defensively at the moment compared to Tottenham. With Pinnock, though, yes, he's got the most fixtures up until Game Week 29, but the fixtures are pretty poor, to be fair. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Pinnock, regardless. Delhi for you too says, congrats, guys, to those who got the memberships. Well done, and praying I get one next time. Yeah, and maybe it's a good thing that I can't pick, because then I, you know, well, I don't have favourites, trust me. But yeah, it's literally just randomly allocated by YouTube. Hope you do get it next time. Foden blank and was horrible that match though. Yeah, I should have gone for Jota instead of him. I'm not so sure, to be fair. I still like Foden. My main regret is going for Jota over Gross, because Gross can sometimes play deeper as a right back or as a holding midfielder. So that was probably my main gripe personally. But I think Foden is still a better pick than Jota with fixtures in mind. Best Gatorade, to be honest, I don't really drink Gatorade. I might have done a few times many years ago. I don't really do it now. Those refs play FPL as well. Don't own Gabby. To be fair, the referees don't have anything to do with it. It's actually the just the accreditation board from the Premier League, and also like Opta Stats and stuff like that. They're the ones who are in charge of it. John Peter says, should we get rid of Liverpool Chelsea players this round? Not necessarily. I still like Liverpool players. Just be mindful if you have too many Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs players, and also if you had a Doughty on top of that. They all blank in Game Week 26, and there's a very slim chance that they'll have that fixture rearranged into Game Week 26. So, yeah, if anything, I'd trim down the Chelsea players, but keep Palmer, and I'd keep whatever Liverpool players you have, especially Jota, Darwin Nunez right now, Trent Alexander-Arnold, etc. Yeah, I think Trent starts. He might even get some minutes in the FA Cup tomorrow, or on the 28th of January on the Sunday. Fact says, stop complaining, have Johnston and Saka. I'm the real casualty. Fair enough, fair enough. Here's your top 3 captains for this game week. With the assumption that Haaland won't start, and it looks very likely they won't, I would say Foden, Alvarez are in the top 2. And in third place, maybe a cheeky De Bruyne punt. It might seem a bit too Man City-centric, but the fixture's amazing, and I think City will win by 3 minimum. My prediction would be 4 or 5-0. I'll give you my final prediction in the next stream, but yeah, I think City players dominate the top 5 captaincy options, and I'd put 2 or 3 of them in that list. Apart from that, Jota's a nice outside shout potentially, but I'd probably put him a bit lower down. Watkins is a nice alternative. Saka could actually, it's going to be typical if he blanks, so to speak, in Game Week 21. He's the most captain player. And then when people don't really captain him, they're selling him or benching him, he ends up producing a massive return. But yeah, I think Man City players, Foden and Alvarez are my favourites. Is it wise to keep Gordon as first sub on the bench? It's an away fixture, it's Aston Villa. Yeah, I think Gordon's a nice option to have on the bench. Of course, he can still return, but yeah, I think I'd have him on the bench. Of course, I don't know your team situation, but it's absolutely fine. Bader says, I guess maybe they pick based on most comments or closest comments. Yeah, maybe. That might be true, actually, because, yeah, maybe you're right. I'll actually search that up, maybe. I'll try to do that after the stream. John Towser's got Foden, Saka, and Palmer in the mid. Yeah, they're still good options, especially Foden and Palmer. Saka, of course, over the course of the season is a good option, but right now he's just out of form. I think sometimes he does play well and he creates 4 or 5 chances in a game, but he just doesn't get the attacking contributions. Yeah, of course, now it's actually a fact. He was robbed of that assist, but it's just an assist anyway in a 5-0 win. Thoughts on Haaland and KDB after seeing the team sheet for the Spurs game, says Adit. Well, with De Bruyne, of course, he's on the bench at least, and he can come on and make an impact. Especially if Man City are losing, you'd be very confident he will come off the bench. With Erling Haaland, he is close to a return, but I think he'll be on the bench against Burnley. Sahil says, my team for Game Week 22. Your thoughts? Areola, Sinchenko, Mikalenko, Stupinian, Trent, Saka, Gross, Palmer, Foden, Watkins, Solanke, bench, Raya, Sarabia, Archer, Cash. 1 free transfer, Sarabia to KDB. Yeah, I think that move looks absolutely fine, and of course it is an upgrade, so I'm not against that whatsoever. In terms of your starting 11, it also looks pretty good. I'm not that convinced about clean sheets for Sinchenko or Mikalenko, and even Stupinian to a certain extent, but it's a good defensive line. Trent looks good, the midfield is solid, and the attacking line looks good this week. So, yeah, one other move you could consider is Archer to Alvarez as a 1-week punter heel, and then in Game Week 23, you could move Alvarez to Erling Haaland. Also, Haaland, buy or wait for another game week? I think I'd wait another game week right now. Wait for more information. If we get, a really reliable source or confirmation from Pep himself, which is very unlikely, that he's going to start against Burnley, or that he's likely to, then yeah, he becomes a buy in Game Week 22. But right now, I'd say it's a wait. Mr. V says, I did a -4 hit for Solanke when they played Luton. No points and lost 10 points because Gabriel didn't get his second goal. I also had Saka captain. Still a good week this week with 83 points and 135th overall rank. That's an amazing rank, especially considering what you just said. Everyone has, to a certain extent, some bad luck that happens throughout the season, but what you just mentioned is pretty much being robbed of points, in my opinion. So I do feel for you. Who knows where you'd be with those points added on, but yeah, still a great rank to be in and a fantastic score. How would you line up your bench? Gusto, Garnacho, Van Dijk. Gusto would be last. I think it'd be Van Dijk first, Garnacho second, and Gusto in third. What to do with Salah? He's a sell. Check out my recent Transtips video. I cover Salah and many other options in detail. Salah is likely to be out for 3 to 4 weeks, according to his own agent, and I just think it's worth selling him. Do you think Saka and Gabriel will get their points? No. I wish I could say yes, they're going to get them, but it's very unlikely. I'd say the chances are next to none. Best captain other than a Man City player? I'd probably say Watkins is up there, but I'm not sure if he is definitively the best outside Man City option. Tricky one this week. It is a tricky one. Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that, but not so sure. I'd probably say in terms of outside shouts, Richarlison, Jota, Saka still, I'm going to put his name into it. And of course, I'd say Watkins. I think those are the best outside shouts. If I had to rank them, probably Watkins or Richarlison would be next up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, or the live chat, so to speak. But yeah, that would be my take on it. Be sure to keep on smashing the like button, get this stream to over 100. I still like Saka in FPL. Yeah, look, overall, in the long term, I think he will do well. But right now, there's no doubt he has been very frustrating. Juntao puts his team, 2.6 million in the bank, 1 free transfer. What would you do? I would sell Salah. Yeah, so I think what I'd do is Salah out, or Jota potentially, or even De Bruyne. I mean, you can still go for him. I'm not saying don't go for him definitively. But yeah, I think that's what I would do. Salah to Jota. And then in the weeks to come, you can bring Erling Haaland back in. Or, you know what? Like I mentioned to someone else, I think it was Sahil just a few minutes ago, I would consider looking at your team. Yeah, you've already got Alvarez actually, don't you? Yeah, so that's absolutely fine. Yeah, so Salah to Jota is my preference there. DRK34 says, share Trent, Estupiñán, Saliba, Bowen, Saka, Palmer, Foden, Salah, Watkins, Solanke. Good stuff. Pretty solid starting 11. I think share's probably the weak link. I don't think Newcastle keep a clean sheet. Out of FPL, any thoughts about the ongoing AFCON? Do you watch any games? I haven't watched any, to be honest. I might tune into some in the knockout stages. I've seen some clips. It does seem quite enjoyable as a competition. A lot of upsets as well. It's a very competitive, tight, competition. I haven't seen any so far, so I can't really offer any thoughts. Any suggestions, says DRK34? In terms of your team, I think, yeah, with Shea, you'd probably keep him with the long-term fixtures. But yeah, in terms of long-term moves, I think Salah's the one to sell. Yeah, Salah. Like I said just now to Juntao, I think Salah to Jota looks good. Richarlison as well is absolutely fine. And you could even go for Kevin De Bruyne. I'm not sure who the last player is. You said Anu. But yeah, you could also upgrade your budget striker to Alvarez as a 1-week punt and then move the Argentine on to Erling Haaland. Matthew says, sell Gabriel or Zinchenko to Walker. I'd rather sell Zinchenko. Once Timber and Tomiyasu are back, which should be within the next month or two, and of course that's still a long way to go, Zinchenko could find himself on the bench. So yeah, I think I'd rather sell Zinchenko. The only issue with that is in the meantime, whilst he starts, Zinchenko is very good for bonus points. Yeah, Maddison back on the bench. Yeah, that is huge, and he could even start in Game Week 22. I actually talked about buying him in one of the Transtips videos heading into Game Week 22. I just think sometimes, like people did with De Bruyne, being early with such a move can pay off. It is still risky though, of course. DRK34, yeah, any suggestions? Yeah, like I said, Salah to Jota would be my preference, and also Richarlison as a captaincy option this week if you want to go against Man City. Maybe I'll buy Alvarez based on his performance today, because last week his finishing was poor. Yeah, that is true, and Alvarez hasn't been particularly great in terms of the goals since Game Week 8, really. Yeah, it is what it is. You win some, you lose some. Yeah, I know, but kind of my main gripe is the fact that the goals were literally accredited to a player and the assist as well, so it should be given. Possible options for Salah? Yeah, like I just mentioned, Jota, Richarlison would be at the top of my list. If you want to go for a non-blank Game Week 26 blanker, then I would consider Pascal Gross or Bowen. Well, no, you already got Bowen, actually. Anyone else? De Bruyne. Yeah, De Bruyne would be the other one. If you're thinking of Alvarez, just buy Joao Pedro or Potter. Yeah, Potter. He's been all right recently, but Joao Pedro, I think, would be the preference. The thing is with Alvarez, though, he's kind of just a 1-week punt. That's what I'm saying to people. And then you can sell him to Erling Haaland. Jota or KDB in place of Salah? I'd say Jota, especially if he gets the double in Game Week 25 with Luton Town coming into that. I guess Watkins best captain for non-Man City player. Yeah, I think De Bruyne is also up there. Yeah, I'd probably say Watkins is the best one. Richarlison or Jota? Difficult one. It's really close, but I'm probably going for Jota with the assumption that Liverpool get a double in Game Week 25. If they don't, then it's much tougher to call. And yeah, Richarlison is probably the safer pick, whilst Jota's the more explosive and exciting pick. But yeah, I'd say Jota right now. Adit says, thoughts on my team, Dylan? 7.1 million in the bank. Turner, Dubravka, Estupiñán, Gabriel, Borro, Colwill, Taylor, Bowen, Saka, Eze, Palmer, Salah, Watkins, Alvarez, Solanke. Yeah, once again, I know it might be difficult for those that kept hold on to Salah up until now, but he is a sell in my opinion. He could be out for 3 to 4 weeks. He's missing a few game weeks at the very least. And who knows, there could be a setback. He's out for even longer. And with the amount of money, you know, over 13 million on your bench, I just don't think it's worth it. He's going to go down in price again, in my opinion. And there are so many midfielders to go to. So you've got Bowen, Saka, Eze, Palmer. That looks pretty good. But you could also go for Foden, De Bruyne, Jota, Richarlison. There are so many midfielders, De Bruyne even. So yeah, I'd sell Salah there. The rest looks absolutely fine. And then in the future, you can do Alvarez to Erling Haaland quite easily. AFCON is interesting. I'll suggest watching tomorrow's match, Nigeria versus Cameroon. Yeah, I think I was asked about, you know, my predictions for AFCON, and I had no information or knowledge on the African teams, but I think I said my final would be Morocco versus Nigeria. Let's wait and see how that turns out, but probably not looking great. What do you reckon is the average rank deviation of good, bad luck for the average player? So for a player at 1 million rank, given good, bad luck, what ranks do you think they could have been at? I think it's all circumstantial. It depends on the situation. I know the template is very strong this season, and it has been for multiple years now, but I think it varies between person and person. And there's actually a tool that can help you monitor for any team, really, including your own. I think it's FPL Optimize. All you need to do is put your team ID, and you can actually check, you know, your predicted points versus your realized points, what you actually got. You don't think Zinchenko could get a clean sheet? Look, Arsenal's defence has been good all season. The problem is Arsenal, they don't concede many chances, but it seems very easy to score goals against them. And like I said, despite the big win against Palace the other day, Palace are in awful form, and Forest have been quite good under Nuno Espirito Santo, and I think they will score against Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal might win, and they are the favourites, but I just think Forest will score. Any upcoming chip strategy videos soon? Potentially. Like I said, if people want to see it, then I'm open to making one and talking about my chip strategies and also what I recommend to most people. And I can also make a few more throughout the season based on people who might have held on to certain chips, for example. So I'm open to that. I've done it in the past as well. And of course, there is the typical transfer tips, wildcard videos, team selections, and sometimes the odd free hit videos as well. And sometimes I kind of couple chip strategy information into a free hit or wildcard video. Mr. V says, I'm going with Ake instead of Walker. Very risky, but I think the upside is there and it can pay off. I mean, look, you're ranked in a really good position, so you probably know better than me. The thing is, though, with Ake, he is very inconsistent with the minutes, especially in the Premier League. I just think with Walker, what you get is decent bonus points potential when he gets a clean sheet. But more importantly, I think he's been subbed off once this season and he had a knock. And that's the only reason that it happened. So I'd rather go for Walker personally. Thoughts on Klopp leaving? I think they'll struggle for a few seasons. Yeah, I think they'll struggle in the short term. And whilst Xabi Alonso, for example, can do well in the long term, I think it might be a struggle there. This season, though, I think they'll do well, win 2 trophies. That's my prediction. I think the Europa League and Carabao Cup are most likely. And you never know, they can add a Premier League title or the FA Cup as well. No, there is no confirmation of Liverpool's double, but there is a possibility that the original fixture in Game Week 26 against Luton Town is brought forward to Game Week 25. Thus, you'd have 4 teams doubling there. So you'd have Man City and Brentford, and of course, Luton Town and Liverpool. But they still blank, of course, in Game Week 26. Thank you, Adit. I appreciate that. Love you, brother. Keep up the great work and keep helping the community. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Juntal says Xabi Alonso, club replacement. It seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? You know, if you ask any Liverpool fan right now, I think most of them would say Xabi Alonso. Apart from that, I mean, who do you go to? In terms of available managers, Conte, it doesn't really fit. So, yeah, I think Xabi Alonso, a progressive manager, kind of a similar style of football there. It could be a great shout there. So, yeah, he hasn't actually ruled out himself. He was asked about Klopp today. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. Let's put it that way. Bada says, my FPL season started very bad this year, but I gained around 2 million ranks in the last 3 game weeks. Nice, good stuff. I've also, so the way my kind of season went is really good start in Game Week 1. I was around 200k. Game Week 2, still pretty good. I was around 400k, but ever since, from Game Week 3 to 8, that kind of destroyed a lot of my season, basically, and I went down to 3.2 million. Then I wildcarded in Game Week 8, and I've been doing okay since, but yeah, Game Week 3 to 8 has, or Game Week 3 to 7 absolutely ruined me. And mainly, I think selling Watkins at the wrong time was a big factor. But yeah, I think you're doing really well. Hopefully, you can keep on pushing and get into the rank you want. It's really good progress, I have to say that. Tony captain, Spurs defense shaky. Yeah, look, I think Tony can get a return against Tottenham. There's no doubt about it. I'm not sure about captaining him, but it's all about going for your own picks and backing your own gut. Because, for example, if someone asked me, should I captain Jota against Bournemouth, I would have probably said he might be on the bench here, get 20, 30 minutes and get a return, but not enough to captain him. And look, we get these things wrong. So it's good to go against the grain, especially this season with the captaincy. So it's not a bad shout. What about Zidane for Liverpool? With Zidane, he's kind of a cup manager, isn't he? He's very good in terms of knockout competitions, particularly the Champions League. But yeah, I think with Zidane, look, it's not bad. I've not heard that actually. You know, I've heard of worse suggestions, but I just think Xabi Alonso is probably a better fit. And also, I'm not sure how many Liverpool fans would want Zidane. Some would argue that he was carried by Real Madrid, but I also think he was quite good tactically. Will you bring in Haaland next game week? In Game Week 23, I think it's likely, but it all depends on the next updates we get about him. But it looks like he's very close to returning. He'll probably be on the bench against Burnley and then start in Game Week 23 against Brentford. Eldin Lissina says, hey Dylan, your opinion on buying Haaland or KDB or both for a -4? Well, this week I'd rather buy De Bruyne because I think he's more likely to start. But in general, I think Erling Haaland is the superior FPL option and he'll play more minutes for the rest of the season. There's no doubt about that. With De Bruyne, he could be benched on many occasions or have very limited minutes even when he does start. Mourinho to Liverpool, absolutely not. I mean, ask any Liverpool fan, I'm pretty sure they'd say no. Your favourite club in the Premier League and La Liga? I support Arsenal, it's my local team. La Liga, I mean, if I had to pick a favourite, I'd say Valencia and probably Atletico are my favourites there. I also don't mind Villarreal. Mainly the Argentine connection to those clubs. But yeah, I'd probably say Valencia if I had to pick one in La Liga. They're pretty poor in recent seasons, and I don't really necessarily like support them in that way. But yeah, I'd say Valencia. Premier League, though, of course, there's no doubt there is Arsenal. I don't let that impact my my decisions, though, in terms of FPL, and I try to keep it quite neutral in terms of my opinions in these videos and streams. Not the same, though, on Twitter. Be sure to follow me on that, and you can see sometimes some very biased comments, to say the least. But just before we wrap up this video and we go off to watch the FA Cup matches, be sure to tune in for Tottenham versus City and Aston Villa versus Chelsea. Just a reminder that Villa versus Chelsea is the most important FPL-wise. Just a few notes I made about that. So just to recap, so for Game Week 26 and the blanks, of course, we all know Chelsea and Liverpool have reached the Carabao Cup final, and Chelsea versus Spurs and Liverpool versus Luton Town will be postponed in Game Week 26. According to Ben Crellin, each fixture has at least a 95% chance of becoming a blank. The midweek in Game Week 26 is when the FA Cup 5th round takes place, so if neither team involved in a Game Week 26 postponement reaches the FA Cup 5th round, then the fixture could stay in Game Week 26. Game Week 26 blanks will likely be confirmed this weekend after the FA Cup results. In terms of Game Week 29 blanks, Chelsea versus Villa, like I said, is the fixture to look out for. If Chelsea win, Arsenal versus Chelsea will become a blank, or is very likely to become a blank, in Game Week 29. If Aston Villa progress, West Ham versus Aston Villa will become a blank instead. In either scenario, one of these fixtures is guaranteed to take place in Game Week 29. Of course, with Man City and Brighton, regardless of what happens tonight, it's still very likely that Man City will blank there in blank Game Week 29. But let's now go to Draft Hound. There is a link in the pinned comment and also in the description. Be sure to check it out. I also put a link in the live chat so you can sign up. I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, I've got the limit here in terms of the characters, so I'm going to use this. So be sure to check out that link, and I honestly recommend it. You can see it on screen. I showed a few tools earlier in this video. And like I said, you've got the optimization tool, for example. So it will put the bench order for you and also the captaincy. Right now, they're suggesting Foden for the armband and Palmer for the vice, with Solanke on the bench without making any transfers. And they're also talking about Solanke to Alvarez and potentially taking a -4 hit and bringing in Jota for Jarrod Bowen. You can see the player rankings as well. And there are so many different metrics that they can analyze. So you've got Foden, Alvarez, Jota in the top 3 for expected points over the next 3 game weeks. If you go to this game week in particular, it's still the same actually, but we've got some differences between 4th and 10th. And then you've got the fixture analysis where Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal are still in the top 3, despite Liverpool blanking in Game Week 26 right now. Chance of clean sheets, it's still the same actually for the top 3. But of course, you've got some interesting names there in the top 10. In terms of player comparisons, you can pick any players you wish whatsoever by creating a comparison yourself, and you've got the popular comparisons shown in this featured section there, and then you've got the predicted lineups as well. So be sure to check out Draft Town. There is a link, of course, in the live chat, in the pinned comment, and also in the description below. I'd highly encourage you to do so. How close is Trippier to Bayern and Benzema to either Arsenal or Chelsea? I think Newcastle have rejected the bids for Trippier. I think that's closer than Benzema to Arsenal or Chelsea. I don't think that's going to happen, actually. And I think Benzema came out recently and said that the rumours are BS, basically. Arsenal should sign Osimhen. I mean, I'd love it. He's a killer. He's also quite well-rounded physically, I'd say. He's quick and he's strong. I'm just not so sure. I think he's going to end up at Chelsea. He did say he's decided where he's going to go. I don't know. It'd be a huge signing for Arsenal, but I don't think it's going to happen. If Zidane was carried by Real Madrid, then Pep was carried by KDB and Haaland. Yeah, look, I don't personally share that sentiment. I think Zidane contributed towards it. It was a great Madrid team, but, you know, they just sacked Benitez, I think, just before Zidane. He won 3 in a row. You know, no matter what you say, the football maybe wasn't great or to the level of Barcelona under Pep, but Zidane did a good job. There's no doubt about it. Thank you, Mr. V. Sahil says, because I think Xabi Alonso could go to Real Madrid too. Yes. But I think with Ancelotti doing well there, signing a contract extension, yeah, I think that will wait a few years. So Xabi Alonso will go to Liverpool probably very soon, and then in a couple of years' time, maybe go to Real Madrid. A bit similar to his career trajectory as a player. Fruit Plug says we want Xabi Alonso, and if not him, the Zerbi is a good shout. Yes, that's actually a really good shout, actually, yeah. I think if I was a Liverpool fan, those would be my top 2 kind of preferences. You know, the kind of big-name managers, the so-called winners like Mourinho and Conte don't fit, and I think their football's a bit dated, especially Mourinho. Yes, they might win something in the short term, but I think long-term, yeah, Xabi Alonso could be a great shout. No one can replace Klopp. Liverpool need to figure out a new way to play. Yeah, and that's where, like Sahil said, maybe a De Zerbi can fit in or a Xabi Alonso. That's a good shout, yeah. I mean, look, it's difficult to replace that sort of manager, sort of larger-than-life figure like Wenger for Arsenal or Ferguson for United. It might take a few years at the very least for Liverpool to get back to a competitive level. And also the more important thing actually is, do players like Alisson and Salah leave? And they're also aging players in the case of Van Dijk and Salah. So that also plays a part. I think Eze is a possible captain option this week. Yeah, the thing is with Palace though, they are such an inconsistent team offensively. But even with one attack in return, Eze could get 3 bonus points and give you, let's say, 9-10 points. That is possible. But I think I'm going with Jota and Foden vice-captain. Yeah, my current one is Phil Foden. If I had Jota, he would be my consideration. And to be honest, I might still try find a way to bring him in. Do you know about Gyökeres? He can be a good striker for a top 6. I don't think so. I probably absolutely butchered the name, by the way. I do apologise if I did. Let me just search him up quickly. Swedish footballer. For who? Oh, for Coventry, you know, no idea. I might have seen the name once or twice, but I haven't seen him play at all. So, yeah, you might be one to tell me. Yeah, actually, never seen him play. Is Draft Town free? You can try out for free, so use my link, sign up, and you can check out a lot of the tools, but it will be limited access, basically. For £2, you will gain access to everything you're seeing here, and that will be for a week. You can cancel within a week, but I would highly recommend it as a long-term investment, spending £2, seeing if you like it or not. And of course, it might even help you with your outcomes and your decision-making. But basically, in terms of getting everything on screen, getting access to the stats comparisons, the fixture analysis, the predicted lineups, and seeing everything for every single team, you have to put £2 in at the very least. I think actually predicted lineups is actually free for everyone. So you can see every single team there for free. But in terms of player ranking, some of it will be locked off for you and also expected points. So only show it for certain players. So yeah, be sure to check it out and let me know what you think as well. I want De Zerbi at United. I don't think Ineos will keep Ten Hag. Yeah, also that plays a part in terms of, you know, if a new board comes in and they didn't actually appoint that manager, they will feel a bit colder towards him, a bit similar to Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel recently. Foden or Alvarez captain? My current preference is Foden, but I have to say, if Alvarez plays down the middle against Burnley, that is a sensational option, in my opinion. He could also potentially be on penalties, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think Alvarez could be a great shout. It's probably Foden first, Alvarez second for me. But by the time we get to the deadline stream, I might swap those two in terms of the captaincy rankings that I tend to do every single week. So we have been streaming for quite a while now. I appreciate those that tuned in. We gifted 5 memberships. 1 hour 45. Jesus, that's been a long while. The games are about to start. And thank you very much to those that have tuned in today. It's been a pleasure. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this stream to over 100 likes and also keep on pushing towards 23k subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League and Draft Town, which I just showed you now and a few times throughout this video. And yeah, I'd highly recommend you check out all those links and become part of this great community. And also be sure to sign up as a channel member or patron to gain access, early access to my videos and many other perks as well, such as priority reply to comments in live streams and also in any YouTube video. So thank you to those that have tuned in today. I'll just answer a few more questions here. Singh says Salah could be out for a possible reason. Salah out could be a possible reason for Klopp deciding to leave a season early. On a different note, have your thoughts on the upcoming game week change? Salah and Saka out, get Darwin in, etc. With Salah, not really. I talked about selling him in Game Week 21 and also in Game Week 22 in the recent Transtips videos. With Saka, I'm going to maintain what I said in my recent video there for the transfer tips. I think he is worth holding on to at least for one more week, but with the alternatives like Jota, Foden, Richarlison all in better form, I do think it could be worth buying them even for just a few game weeks, and then you can always sell them around Game Week 26. So yeah, with buying Darwin in right now, yes, I'm rating him a bit more favorably at the moment, but I'm not so sure if I'd buy Darwin. I think if I had Darwin, I'd keep hold of him for now, especially if Liverpool double in Game Week 25. But I would rather prioritize Tony, Solanke, Watkins, and Erling Haaland once he's available and ready to start. What do you think about Omar Berrada, the new Man United senior executive, Man City's former? I don't know enough about him. I know some United fans, some friends of mine, they're quite happy with the appointment. He is generally high rated, but I don't know enough about him, to be quite honest with you. Let me know if anyone knows about Berrada. Let me know in the comment section. Thank you, Mr. V, and good luck with the rest of the season. Thank you, Juntao. I appreciate it, even though I disagree. Thanks, mate, for answering every question and helping us out. Legend. Thank you very much. And yeah, I think with this stream, a bit calmer than usual, of course, but we were able to go for every single comment. I'm not sure how many that was. I lost count. Probably a few hundred. I'm not even sure. But I appreciate those that tuned in. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UCL fantasy content. There's going to be a first draft for Matchday 7 coming out very soon. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 22. Enjoy the FA Cup this weekend. And I'll see you next time.